Try to a channel of light fluid. And there's Lyre, which means we're back with Lyre again after a couple of months. I think it's been since we last had a chance to do this. But we are definitely going to be carrying on with the next chapter, and I'm going to try and fit the whole thing into this video for you. As you might remember, we end up with Ifor in the dungeons after Raynar has been killed. And he's met someone interesting. So who knows where that's going to go? We'll find out. Lyle's eyes feel heavy as he steadily wakes up. Yet another night of restless sleep. As he shifts his legs around underneath the warm covers, cold air flows under them, sending a fresh feeling up his body. His feet are cold and he brings his legs closer to himself. The heat from his body should be enough to keep him warm. Not to mention his fur. However, it feels like the cold has been getting worse. He hugs one of his pillows tightly to his body to keep warm. The feeling of warmth he's usually carried with him has been diminished these past few days. The rest of his senses have finally started to kick in, and a strong sensation begins to overtake him. It's the scent. Ifor. He's noticed that every time he shifts around in his bed, Ivor's scent invades his senses. It's been a few days since their intimacy, yet his smell still lingers. It's not a bad smell by all means. Ifor usually smells so nice. The scent isn't artificial either. It gives off a natural feeling. Thinking about Ifor causes a flood of recent memories to flow through his mind. For the past few days, every time he wakes up, he feels as if each memory smacks him in the face all over again. Reminding him about everything that's happened with no remorse. It almost feels unbelievable, and sometimes he'll wake up in the morning. As he's still coming to, he'll feel a moment of pure bliss and hope that it's all just a nightmare. It wasn't a nightmare, though. If only it was. His eyes are starting to well up with tears. He doesn't know if they're watering from waking up, or if it's because of sorrow. To be honest, most of his worries come from thinking about Ifor. He feels awful knowing he wasn't able to go and visit Ifor yesterday. Lately the whole castle has been in an uproar and he's barely had a chance to sit down. He knows that Ifor is strong, but he just can't bear the thought of him thrown down there. Ifor has definitely been fed, but it's still a terrible place to be. He doesn't deserve it. Sometimes he wishes he could take his place and be the one that's thrown in the cell. He cares for Ifor an awful lot, but somehow doesn't feel like it has anything to do with this notion. He wholeheartedly believes that Ifor was not the one who did it. Knowing this makes a sense of justice swell up inside of him. He cannot allow such a form of injustice to happen. He'll do anything that he can to help Ifor. Not just because of love, but because of loyalty. Lyre adjusts himself to get up from bed, and the scent invades his nose once more. It's almost intoxicating, and reminds him of all the fond memories he's made so far. With his free paw, he traces his finger from his groin, across his navel and up to his abdomen. That night when Ifor was inside of him was the closest he's ever been with anyone, both physically and emotionally. He'd never truly felt such strong feelings like those until now. He's sure of it. Never has he been so connected with someone. Someone who truly understands him. The bed beneath him creaks as he slides his legs off the end and swings them down onto the ground. His padded feet brush the cold floor and sends a shiver up his spine as a chilly draft blows over his naked body. This doesn't worry him too much though, knowing that the air will eventually warm up as the day marches on. Carefully, Lyre stands up and stretches his legs by walking around, giving his body a chance to fully wake up. He only slept for about 3 hours, instead of the usual 4 or 5. He feels refreshed though, and that's all that matters. It's always the short rests that feel the longest. He takes a few steps around his bed and looks out the window. Crisp snow is piled up on the sill, and the morning sun shimmers through the top of it like crystals. The room has a dull and cosy glow to it, which contrasts the colourful morning sky outside. Lyre swiftly walks at the side of his room near the door and puts on a long cotton coat. Lifting the coat up and sliding his arms into the sleeves allows him to get a whiff of his own body. It's not a terrible smell, but he could definitely use a bath. The last one he took was the quick one he had right before everything fell apart. He'd like to visit Ifor later and wouldn't want to smell and clean. He'll also have to attend Prince Adrius' coronation. That's supposed to happen sometime this morning, so he should have time afterwards. Lyre then takes a pair of underwear and slides them on, along with a pair of thick trousers. Taking another look around his room, he notices that everything is still the way it was that night. The fire is out, and the bedsheets are dishevelled, where everything is still in its place. Even the ballroom clothes that were thrown on the ground in a pile are still bundled up on the floor against his bed. It's like a memory frozen in time. Gathering up a few things, he made a motion for the door before noticing something. There's a piece of parchment face down on the ground that's been slid under the door. He bends over and picks it up, flipping it over to read it.
Lyre, meet me in my study after the coronation. I need to talk to you about something in private. Please, Leif.
Leif wants to meet him after the coronation? Why? Whatever it is, he hopes it isn't more bad news. He walks over to his dresser and locks the top drawer, throwing the letter inside. Whatever he wants to talk about most likely has nothing to do with what's going on, but this letter gives off a feeling of urgency. He'll most likely have to visit with him before seeing Ifor. Not only that, but he still has work to do everywhere else, along with figuring out how to save Ifor from being strung up by his neck. He shakes this horrible thought out of his mind as he goes for the door. He takes a few steps out into the hall and looks left and right, hoping that nobody is coming. The entire corridor is empty as he strides in the direction of the stairs leading to the bathing room. He's clothed, of course, but he'd rather be alone with his thoughts right now. The private bath next to his room is ideal, but right now he'd rather use the one near Ivor's room. It's comfortable and people rarely use it. Most things in the guest wing are usually better quality. It's honestly a good thing the coronation is today. Everyone in the castle is probably getting ready already outside of the throne room. Even the staff is most likely prepping for some posh thing afterwards. Lyre wouldn't really know. He's never been to a coronation. The cold yet fresh air wafts onto his face as he emerges from the inner halls. Weather around this time of year is cold enough to chap his nose badly. He brings his paws out to his snout and breathes into them as he walks down each twist and turn of the hall. Right as he's coming up to the bathing room door, he spots Ivor's room down the hall. The door is still propped open. They're probably still conducting a search of the place. He would have been part of it, but they asked him not to intervene since he was so close with Ifor. He was a bit offended by it, but tried not to let it bother him. Swiftly he slips into the bathroom, escaping the cold. His padded feet immediately touch the damp floor. He has to stop himself from slipping as he steps through the doorway. The room echoes as the door shuts behind him with a soft thud. Everything smells the way it usually does, and the room is casting a glow of colourful light from the windows above. The white marble shines even brighter because of it. Walking over the levers, he pulls on the ones he usually uses. He pulls the water one all the way down, then takes the one that says oils and pulls it down just a little bit. Along with pulling the soap lever down, of course. He watches as the water begins to funnel out of the faucets at the top. The scent of coconuts and natural plant aromas invade his senses as the water splashes the bottom of the already damp pool. He begins to take off his clothes and sets them on the bench nearest to the door. Nobody's here right now, so there's no need to go to the changing room. Gently he steps into the tub and lowers himself into the hot water. It's a relaxing feeling that envelops his whole body. He dunks his head into the water and scrubs with his paws all around his fluff. He brings his head out from underneath the water and imagines he now looks like a wet mop. He shakes his head a bit, splattering water everywhere and slightly drying his head fur. After that, he lays back against the wall of the pool and lets the water rush around him. This environment allows him to truly think. At least, as long as nobody bothers him. After a few moments of sitting there in the pool of warm water, he realizes something. Even though he has the determination to do it, how is he going to help Ifor? He's no detective. Oh, damn it! He begins to slowly scrub himself down, cleaning himself thoroughly. Going around and asking questions would certainly help, but who would he start with? He contemplates for a moment before remembering something. The dagger that was found at the scene of the crime has intrigued him since he first laid eyes on it. It looked like an ordinary dagger at first glance, but something seems off about it. Unique in a way. He has to figure that out sooner or later. Where did that dagger come from? Maybe he would figure out who the owner was. Eden. Eden would be the best person to talk to. He supplies the best weapons in the village as a master of his craft. He's made weapons of the highest nobles around, including being the one who crafted Reynar's sword. He should know at least something. Lyre rises a bit from the water with a feeling of triumph now he has a clearer goal in mind. He'll clear Ivor's name. He has to. He finishes cleaning himself and gets out of the bath. His fur is now sleek and shines a rich brown colour in the morning light. Water drips off of his body and onto the slippery floor, creating small puddles around him. He walks over to the levers and resets them, allowing the water to stop and the pool to drain. Walking over to the bench, he takes a dry towel off of the clean pile and begins to lightly dry his fur, but not too much. He doesn't want to get rid of the oils in his fur that help keep it shiny and smooth. Once he's done patting himself down with the towel, he places it on the basket and broadens his stance. He then proceeds to shake his body, mostly his head, almost like how a dog would when they are wet. Water flings off of him, creating a thick mist cloud, and his fur fluffs up for a moment, before laying back down on his body. He wouldn't dream of doing something like that in front of someone. He usually tends to keep his canine tendencies to himself, and refrains from acting in such a way in front of people. After that little bit of theatrics, he dresses himself, the dry clothes sticking to his damp body, and then leaves through the door. After laying down and allowing himself to fully dry off, Lyre rises from his bed and begins to get ready for the ceremony. It's best if he arrives a little bit early. Looking into one of the mirrors on his wall, he runs his paws through his fur. As untamable as it is, he'd like for his fur to look as decent as possible. After tidying up his fur, he walks over to his armour stand. His ceremonial armour is loosely thrown onto it from the night before. He takes the full bodysuit and slides it up his legs and around his torso, sliding his arms into the sleeves. It's warm and lined with leather on the inside. He then takes the breastplate, gorget, and connected pauldrons and puts them on. He's gotten a lot better at putting his armour on by himself over the years. It's a relatively easy set of armour to put on, considering it's mostly meant to be ornamental. The armour that he would wear in actual combat is somewhere in the trunk, and that's very hard to put on. It would be easy with 2 people, maybe a squire, but Lyre refused to have an esquire when the opportunity was given to him. He doesn't entirely need their help, and he has no wisdom to offer yet. He just had to accept that he would be wasting their time. Raynar wasn't upset about it, though. He rarely ever got too upset at things. Locking the last bracer onto his wrist, he stands in the mirror and looks himself over. His armour may look a bit ridiculous at times, but it's very comfortable and protects from the cold perfectly. He latches the cape onto his pauldrons, equips the sheath for his sword, and goes to leave for the door. But just as he's about to leave, he looks at the helmet still sitting on the armour rack. It's a typical knight's helmet fitted to a wolf's head, and even styled to look like a wolf. Every knight in the Royal Guard has one styled after their species, but nobody ever wears them. They're extremely uncomfortable and not really needed for day-to-day duties. Most knights either carry them around under their arms or just don't even bother to bring them. For a moment, Lyre considers bringing it to the ceremony, but then reconsiders knowing he won't even be on duty. Even as captain, he'll most likely just get to hang back in the crowd and watch from the centre of the room. You can't help but wonder if they planned it this way. Maybe they didn't want the one person who's closest to Ifor planted right alongside the throne. And again, nobody's really accused Lyre of anything yet. He steps through the door and out into the dim corridor. Thankfully, the throne room isn't too far from his bedchambers. You can even hear some distant chatter coming from where the throne room is. It's pretty far away, but his hearing is better than most. He starts walking down the hall with his paw relaxingly placed on the handle of his dagger. On his way, he passes a few people who are clearly making an effort to pay him no mind. Being one of the tallest people in the hallway can make it hard to blend in. It appears that most people are trying to avoid contact with him, though. He notices that when he makes eye contact with some people, they avert their eyes and continue to talk with whoever they're strolling with. We'll just have to get used to it. People will be people. More and more people clog the halls he approaches the large doors leading into the throne room. Some of them he recognizes nobility from the nearby cities. There are a lot of lords and traders of all different shapes and sizes. Even spots a few heads of some smaller noble houses from the west. They're wearing their crests proudly and chatting amongst themselves. There's even a small band off to the side, talking with each other and tuning their instruments. Everyone is standing up against the walls and pillars, allowing the light to beam through the windows onto the floor. It shines brightly and illuminates the whole room, giving each plank growing on the wall a healthy glow. Lyre desperately tries to spot anyone in the crowd he knows, so he's not standing around awkwardly. Suddenly he hears someone a short distance away say his name.
Sir Lyre?
Lyre turns around to see Kadaj standing alone, his paws behind his back. He has a thoughtful expression on his face. The charismatic attitude he carries is currently absent.
Hello, Kadaj. I hope things are well. As well as they can be.
He looks at the ground in discomfort.
I also hope that things are good with you, given everything that's happened.
Lyre would start venting about his problems right here, right now, but he decided to give this simple answer. Kadaj doesn't know him too well, so I'll try to spare him the details.
Well, nothing's been great. All I can do is keep moving forward. That's all any of us can do. Unfortunately for myself, I'm unable to go anywhere. Being a hostage and all that.
He says that last bit in a joking tone, but Lyre takes it very seriously. Well, we have to keep an open mind when it comes to these things. Surely you understand how everyone's suspicions are fairly placed?
Oh, of course. It makes plenty of sense.
He says this with a hint of sarcasm sprinkled with sincerity.
I am willing to be compliant for the sake of order. Lord Ifor and I have talked about this before, and he knows how passionate I am when it comes to that.
He swings his paws to the front and clasps them, arms drooping down while bouncing on his heels.
By the way, how is our mutual friend? I really hope that he's okay.
Well, he's as good as anyone will be in a prison cell, but last I saw him he seemed to be taking it better than most. Ivor's strong, so I know he'll get through.
The conversation's been lowered to a whisper as Lyre begins to speak of Ifor. He's definitely the best of us when it comes to that. Something about him has always struck me as different. He's skilled politically, but still holds strengths in other areas.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, I don't know much about his past, but I'd assume since he's not of noble blood, there's something interesting to be said of it.
Lyre wonders why Kadachi is bringing this up. It is a bit interesting. Most of what I know is that Ifor was a commoner that rose to a high position of power. Something about it being like a game to him. He never talks about it much. He doesn't seem to be someone fixated on the past.
No, he doesn't. At least, not his own.
Yeah. Lyre looks down with a bit of sadness in his eyes.
You really care for him, don't you?
A what? This blunt statement takes him a bit off guard. To be fair, he was spacing out a bit.
Sorry, I didn't mean to pry. It's just I've been hearing people talk.
Yes, well, people talk.
I know, but I don't care much for that. Talking is one thing, but seeing is another. Mainly, I notice the way you look at him. I don't mean to offend, but it's blatantly obvious.
Lyre shifts uncomfortably, not liking where this chat is going. The blush on his face is clear as day. Where is this going?
Please don't take this the wrong way. I have no intention of showing any form of judgment. Where I am from, I also have someone that I care for deeply. As much as I hate to admit it.
He says his last part under his breath.
You'll never hear any judgment from me. I'm only here to help, and I know how much you care for him.
Lyre makes a puzzled and embarrassed face. Whatever anybody thinks is up to them. I appreciate your concern, Lokadaj. We don't need your sympathies.
Lyre.
Kadaj suddenly takes him by the arm and brings him to a secluded corner of the room, bringing his tone to a hissing whisper.
I don't want to see Ifor swinging by his neck. Or losing it.
He loosens his grip on Lyle's arm and lowers his head. Lyle sees a look of doom appear on his expression.
I'm not entirely sure you know how these things work. This doesn't look good for him.
Oh, you. I know that. I'm pretty sure I know how these things work. Lyle is slowly getting more and more annoyed as the conversation continues.
Have you ever participated in a trial?
Oh, no.
Have you ever even witnessed the trial?
Well, I've witnessed one, but it wasn't for anything big. Well, maybe Kadaj is right. You might not be prepared for this after all.
So you understand how quick something like this can be?
Well, they're never quick.
This one will be. He was found at the scene of a crime in almost impossible circumstances. Accused of killing a king. Not to mention, he's not of noble blood. If it wasn't for his rank, he'd most likely been killed on the spot.
He's right. Lyre recalls the night when Bjorn threatened to kill Ifor. Sometimes he forgets how important blood is.
Not to mention his foreign status. If it was a common castle servant or run-the-mill guard, then it wouldn't be that big of a problem. His status makes this 10 times worse. I like to think he didn't do it, but even if he's innocent and found guilty, Lyre will still end up executing a foreign ambassador. And depending on where it goes, it could lead to all-out war. And if he did do it, then it means something much worse.
He didn't do it! This escapes from Lyle's mouth like a growl, surprising even him.
You believe what you want, but that won't help him.
I know, but he didn't. Oh, I just know it.
So that leaves me?
That's not what I was implying.
I'm sorry, am I interrupting something?
Leif walks up next to Lyre, looking at the two of them with a curious gaze. No,
No, Sir Reed and I were just talking about Lord Ifor.
Leif dons an annoyed expression.
Yes, I'm sure everyone is.
He turns to Lyre.
Can I please borrow you for a moment?
Both Leif and Lyre look to Kadaj. Do you mind?
I know, it's quite all right. There'll be plenty of time to talk later.
He swiftly turns to Leif and nods.
Lord Leif?
Leif's eyes light up for just a moment, and Lyre can tell he's flattered.
Actually, it's just Leif. As you please.
He looks at Lyre.
I hope to speak with you again soon, sir.
Sure. With that, Kadaj turns around and walks off toward the front of the throne room. Leif takes Lyre by the paw and leads him over to another corner of the room. Lyre has to hunch over a bit, but follows behind.
Lyre, I haven't had the chance to say this, but I'm really sorry about everything that happened. I know that our king was like a father to you. And he was a dear friend to me for a very long time.
The little gloved wing is still gripping Lyle's paw tightly.
Not only that, but our friend from Erin is accused of being the killer.
Lyre can tell his voice is a bit weak.
What I'm trying to say is I know how you feel. And our poor prince is in a lot of pain because of all of this.
He pulls on Lyle's paw and brings him closer to his face.
So please, refrain from speaking about these things in public.
This is probably the most worked up Lyle's ever seen Leif. Lets go of his paw and relaxes his body a bit. All right, I'm sorry. Why shouldn't I?
Because right now we need to keep things a bit under control.
He lowers his voice the softest whisper. Lyre has to lean in to hear him, even with his enhanced hearing.
If anybody hears of these little conversations, word will spread. Public opinion can be a huge detriment to something like this. And we can't have this situation delve into more chaos than it already has. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, I suppose.
You need to keep a low profile. Feel free to ask questions of those you truly trust, but try to stay away from gossip and rumors.
Oh, it wasn't like that. As much as I don't personally trust Kadaj, especially at the moment, he wasn't trying anything like that. It's small, but I do get the feeling he wants to prevent Ivor's head being put on a spike. Either that or he wants the peace he's always preaching about.
Or both.
Leif shuffles slightly.
This is why I wanted to talk to you in private later. I think I may have found something. Something that has to do with Ifor. I wanted to show it to you first, though.
What is it? Leif grips his wings together tightly.
I can't talk about it here.
Lyre crosses his arms with an impatient look on his face. He didn't think things had to be this private. Okay. I'll head straight to your study after this, got it?
All right. Goodbye for now.
Leif scuttles off into the crowd of people and takes his place at the front. Given his height, it makes sense. Lyre goes to take his place in the crowd, yet he overhears something from a group of people. An old lord talking to another man of similar qualities.
From what I hear, he was assigned to the traitor as a bodyguard by King Rayner himself. A glorified servant, if you ask me. Oh, it can't be that bad, can it? Yes, well, it could be something more than that.
Lyre slowly walks up to the man, his paw still resting on his dagger.
According to the rumours, they become something like blasphemous lovers. And there's some wonder why he's been given the rank of captain in the first place.
The first noble turns around with a smarmy grin on his face. The second and third already saw Lyre approach and quickly avert their gaze with embarrassed expressions.
I can't help but overhear you speaking ill of Lord Ifor. And myself. Yeah,
The fact that Ivor's in a cell won't stop me from letting him fight his own battles, but you've also insulted me. I'd advise you not to talk about things you know nothing about. Unless you wish to fight the one of whom you spoke so rudely. The man grumbles to himself and straightens his jacket.
Please. The lord you speak of isn't even a lord. And despite your rank, you're a northern bumpkin for dying family. I wouldn't be throwing your strength around if I were you, Lord Reed.
It's Captain Reed to you. And I'll defend myself against anybody who speaks behind my back like a coward. My allegiance is to this kingdom and its people, but I will not bow to the likes of you. With that, he turns around and walks away. One of the idiots says something, but he doesn't listen. They can have their last word if they want, but he's not going to stoop to their level. He knows this completely goes against Leif's advice, but he's not just going to let people get away with stuff like that. He still has pride. They want to gossip about him or Ifor, they better make sure he's out of earshot. Lyre moves up a bit more toward the centre of the crowd and stands in front of a tall bull and bear. He doesn't want to block anyone's view. At about a minute of waiting, the noise begins to calm down. Everyone in the hall is silent, aside from a few whispers. Lyre can see Liz standing off the side of the throne. Her silhouette is bathed in a golden glow. Across from her is someone in a green robe. They're holding a small pillow, and on it sits the crown. Raynar's crown. It's probably even fit to Adrius' head, but it's definitely still the same crown. Being passed down to the Rossian family for as long as anybody knows. The door opens to the right side of the room, and there stands Adrius. His face is dull and emotionless, like a statue. He's also wearing a gaudy cloak that Lyre remembers hearing about. It's a wool cloak of rich green colour. The collar is adorned with purple feathers and the inside is lined with purple fur. This is the ceremonial cloak that all kings wear when they are crowned. He is accompanied by 2 guards who walk him up to the throne and then depart. Adrius slowly turns around to face the crowd. All eyes are upon him and everyone is silent. The musicians have already begun to play their symphony, and it fills the hall with an angelic noise. The suspense flows out over the audience like a wave as they wait for Adrius to speak.
I had not wished to be here, standing before all of you on this day.
He pauses shortly into his speech. His voice is a bit shaky, yet he continues.
But the day has come, and I cannot lie by saying that I had not prepared for it. Every prince has this responsibility put on them since the day they are born. It terrifies us, it haunts us, and yet we endure. Not for our sake, or our fathers, for the sake of the people, our people.
He gestures off to his side in the direction of the castle town.
Today I speak for the pride of Lyre. The pride of this kingdom and its people. History has finally crossed paths with destiny. And we as a kingdom must band together as one. To ensure our survival and to take control.
He clenches his fist with determination. Liz is looking upon him proudly, and everyone in the crowd is practically holding their breath.
I have but one dream. One goal to strive behind. It is a promise to myself and a sacred vow to all of you. I will not lead you astray. I will take action, and there will be no compromise. We will not buckle, break, or yield in the face of those who mean to put us down. We as a kingdom will dig our hooves in and push back. You will give me all you have, and in return I will give you everything.
His voice wavers a bit, but he keeps going.
I will ensure that our kingdom prospers, and I will make no excuses. I am not a man of hollow promises. This is my vow. I, Adrius Ossian, son of Rhaena Ossian, swear before the lands of Tigran and all their splendour, that I will leave this kingdom greater than I found it. Let the higher gods bear witness. We will persevere.
After taking a moment of pause, he looks down and nods to the person in the cloak. They begin to speak toward him in a soft voice that somehow echoes throughout the hall. Adrius Ossian, son of Rhaena Ossian and Eleanor Ossian, rightful ruler of the Lyrian throne. Do you proclaim today that you will protect the people of Lyre and guide them toward a better future? Are you prepared to follow and fulfill the responsibilities of a true monarch by keeping the peace, upholding the law and administering justice? With a short pause before he confirms.
I will.
The hooded figure slowly holds out the pillow. Liz steps forward and takes the crown. She raises it up to place on his head.
I now pronounce you King Adrius Ossian, ruler of Lyre and one of the Holy Triad.
The crown is placed upon his head and Liz steps back.
May his rule be long and prosperous.
The throne room erupts with applause. Lyre claps along with them, but notices something. Adrius could rarely be caught in a good mood. An even rarer occurrence was to see him cry. These were not tears that would be shed after witnessing something beautiful, nor were they tears of a proud leader. They were not tears of joy. The rest of the day moves by dreadfully slow. Adrius sits on his father's throne, stiff and uncomfortable. He knows he belongs here, but doesn't feel right. It's been his destiny since he was born, but achieving it in this way was not how he wanted it. He looks around the room, his eyes dancing around at the people that fill it. Leaves softly fall down from the overgrown trees above to land among the crowd. Some of them he recognizes from the village. Business owners and shopkeepers. Some of them are wealthy traders. Everyone else is just noble lords and ladies from the rest of Lyre. Their extravagant designs on their clothes contrast the muted colour scheme that seems to be so popular with this part of the land. A crafty feline from Driss sits out like a sore thumb amongst the crowd in his bright green coat. It's not hard to, though. Almost more than half the room is empty by now. Nobles came to the throne one by one and wished him a long and prosperous rule, shaking his hand and bowing. He'd say he enjoyed this little bit of social interaction, but right now it's the last thing he wants. The amount of emotions he's been keeping bottled up these past 2 days have been taking a toll on him. Right now he just wishes he could be alone. To his right is Elizabeth. She's leaning against one of the walls, arms down by his side with a dull expression upon her face. Even Adrius could never understand why she always looked so bored with everything. She noticed him glance in her direction and approaches.
Something wrong? Isn't it obvious? Adrius.
She somehow manages to throw him a look of both understanding and irritation at the same time.
I apologize. No, it's okay. I know you've been through a lot lately. Oh, it's not that. I'm just tired of being surrounded by all these people.
He leans toward her.
Forgive me, but I'm not in the best state of mind right now. And that's okay. I understand how these things can be emotionally draining. If you want, I can take over from here. Almost everyone is gone now, and the after party will start in a bit. It's best you go and prepare for that. That's true.
He adjusts the crown on his head. It was professionally fitted for him, but still a bit big.
I suppose I could let you take over. I don't think there's really much to do from here. If I had to stay, it'd probably just be me sitting here watching as everyone talks with each other.
He stands from his throne and rests his hand on the armrest.
I know your position as War Minister is being tested right now. The future's looking too bright, but in order to achieve my dream, we'll need to play it smart. Of course. I'll offer my advice wherever I can.
Sometimes Adrius wonders why his father even had an advisor. To him, it seems like he treated everyone like a consultant.
Your advice is welcome. At least I have someone older than myself for an advisor. Yes, I suppose. That is something that's always bothered me about Father. Oh, what's that? I mean, no offence by this. Why did he choose you as an advisor? Given it's usually standard to have someone much older than oneself advise you on these matters.
She at first seems confused, then equips that smirk she always has.
Your father never saw it that way. He once told me that wisdom and age aren't everything. He valued the youth of our generation. That their outlook on life and untainted experiences were what this world needed in order to achieve a brighter future. All that along with a king who chose to listen to the right people.
Adrius taps a leaf on the ground with his hoof while listening to Elizabeth. She leans forward, looking into his eyes with her hands behind her back as if to get his attention.
He believed that advice could be found anywhere. Trust me, growing up he had plenty of old and wise men and women teaching him everything he knew. But as he got older, he searched for a different point of view. Choosing people he trusted to lead a good example, whether young or old.
As she says this, Adrius glares out in the crowd and spots Lyre. He's talking with another wolf, a local baker from the looks of it. They finish their conversation and Lyre heads out into the hall. Adrius steps away from the throne, still looking at Lyre.
Not everyone has. Adrius, please don't. I just want to talk with him.
He snaps his fingers, signaling the two guards standing by the side door to follow him. They quickly rise from their slumped-out positions and follow behind him. Adrius walks down the steps and heads straight down the long green carpet, people stepping out of his way and bowing. He pays them no attention, his eyes trained on that bastard as if he had tunnel vision. Ever since that night he'd been wanting to confront him alone. Lyle's been sulking about ever since as if it was his father that was murdered. Oh yes, he must be so conflicted. Adrius exits the throne room and turns the corner, looking down the hall. He spots Lyre moseying down the corridor. His tail is swishing left to right in an almost rhythmic way, causing his cape to flutter side to side. He's not going in the direction of his room, though.
A dog?
He slumps his shoulders and turns around slowly with a look of annoyance. King Adrius. How many times must I beg you not to call me that?
That's what dogs do, though, right? They beg.
The guards stand behind Adrius now, their faces expressionless and their gaze straight ahead. I suppose. Anyway, what do you want? He says this with a tone of indignation. Adrius fiddles with his shoulder cape as he speaks.
Oh, it's nothing. I just wanted to speak with you about everything that's happened, personally. These past few days have been rather busy.
Lyre straightens himself out a bit. Yes, they have. I'm really sorry about what happened. To lose one's father is truly a terrible thing. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Adrius grips his shoulder cape a bit tighter in his fist. He's been hearing several different variations of that phrase all week. None felt genuine except for his, which irks him the most.
Yes, thank you for your kind words. But that's not what I wanted to talk about.
Lyre slumps down a bit more. His shoulders are as low as they can be. Oh.
Yes, I'm sure you saw this coming, but I wanted to talk about your assignment. Regarding the traitor and all that.
He jumps at this statement. He didn't do it.
Yes, I know that you believe with all your heart that he wasn't the one to do it. But can't you see he's lying to you?
Lyre is silent, glaring at him with those wolven eyes. He wouldn't lie to me.
Oh, really? How do you know that?
He goes to speak, hesitates, then continues. Because I know him. Better than you, at least.
Oh, of course.
Adrius rolls his eyes at this notion.
You silly dog. I barely know him. I'm assuming the worst about him with strong evidence. You've only known before, or let's be generous and say a month. And you act like you know him enough to assume he's perfectly innocent. Those two don't really seem comparable, do they?
Lyre's lip quivers a bit before making an irritated expression. He quickly turns around and begins to walk in the opposite direction. I've had enough of this conversation. It's been fun, but
You're going to visit him right now, aren't you?
He staggers a bit with his footsteps and turns around while still walking. No, I'm actually just...
You love him, don't you?
Lyre then stops in his tracks completely.
After all he's done?
He stands there with his mouth agape, clearly thinking of how to respond. Adrius enjoys the way people have to tread on glass while speaking with him. One little slip-up and they're putty in his hands. Finally, he speaks. I really don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, but you do. I can see it in those big eyes of yours.
Adrius steps forward with his hands behind his back, leaning in a bit.
Are you sure he's not just leading you on? If I recall, it's happened before in the past.
Lyre visibly clenches his fist. That was different. Adrius crosses his arms over his chest and nods.
Yes, of course. Only you would know.
Ivor is different.
Ah, so you do love him.
Lyre turns to walk away. Really, I must be...
Tell me, did you fall head over heels for him before or after he fucked you?
Shut up, Adrius! Adrius doesn't move from his spot. The two guards behind him flinch a little as Lyre lets his emotions get the better of him.
I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. For your sake.
Lyre realizes what he just did and backs down, his tail tucked between his legs. I'm sorry,
Oh, don't apologize, you fool. I'm going to make one thing perfectly clear. Do you understand? You're not to visit with him anymore.
I'm sorry.
Ifor, I don't want you seeing him. I can't have your emotions interfering with this trial. You need to understand what's at stake here, Lyre.
I understand what's at stake here. You need to understand that something crazy is going on. He didn't kill Raynar. Whoever did do it is still probably lurking around. And they might be out for your head. Adrius holds up a hand, not wanting to hear any more of this nonsense.
That may be so, but this is the safest option right now. I'm giving you an order, Lyre. If I catch you in that dungeon again, I'll have you punished.
With that, Lyre backs away with a solemn expression on his face. His tail is limp between his legs. As you wish. He turns and sulks away.
A good dog. I'll tell him you said hi.
Adrius throws his cape to the side and turns in the other direction.
Come.
The guards behind him quickly turn and follow him, trying to keep up with his fast pace as he walks down the corridor. Adrius isn't even mad at Lyre. Lyle's loyalties to his kingdom are far too strong for him to break faith. But he can't let his emotions influence this trial. Descending the staircase, he reaches the bottom and turns around the corner. More stairs lead him down to the depths of the castle. It becomes increasingly more chilly with each step he takes. The floor is damp and cold along with the walls. Finally they reach the bottom, a long hallway with cells lining the left side. It smells like spring water. There is a guard posted at the entrance. His eyes are tired and his body is slumped against the wall. He sees Adrius and instantly straightens up.
Stay.
The guards behind Adrius stand by the door of the stairwell as he continues through the tunnel. He always hated it down here. He came down here once to play as a child, let his imagination get the better of him. The next couple of years he was deathly afraid of these dungeons. Playing in the gardens was much more preferable. His mother enjoyed chasing him through the bushes and would even help him climb trees. She always had a few gowns that were covered in grass stains. Eventually those just became her gardening clothes. Why is he remembering this now? He's been unintentionally thinking of childhood memories a lot lately. Given current events, it would make sense they constantly try to breach the walls of his mind. He can't let those memories get to him, though. Not now. For what it's worth, he doesn't have a single worry when it comes to ruling. Whatever happens will happen. For as long as it's within his control, he'll prevail. He has to. As long as he keeps pushing through, no matter the struggle, he'll reach that goal. The hall stretches onto a dim horizon, almost bending. Each cell he passes, he looks inside to try and spot him. And with each empty cell, he grows more and more concerned that he's somehow escaped. That would be impossible. And stupid. After a few minutes, he reaches the last cell and looks inside. At first, he half expected it to be empty. But this was not the case. There he is. He's just sitting there on the dirty floor, slouching with his back against the wall. His eyes are distant and far away as he stares off into empty space. It's almost like he's looking at nothing. It's only been a few days. He can't have gone insane already. Along with all of this, he isn't decently dressed. What he's wearing right now is his undershirt, trousers and a pair of socks.
Already lost it, have we?
Upon hearing his voice, Ifor turns and looks at Adrius. His eyes are sullen and his face lacks almost all emotion. The pupils are a deep shade of purple, which causes Adrius a moment of confusion. He shrugs this off, having never paid attention to his eye colour before. He wonders if that's normal for humans. Not yet. He shifts his legs slightly, adjusting himself.
I imagine that upsets you. Not really. It doesn't make me feel anything. Just knowing you're down here is the only assurance I need.
Well, it's been fun talking with you then.
A nice crown.
He goes back to staring at the floor. Adrius is finding it harder and harder to keep his cool.
His anger has reached its boiling point. If you think I'm going to be dismissed by someone sitting in the cell, then you truly have gone mad.
Ifor sighs, drumming his fingers on his leg.
I know why you came down here. You're looking in the wrong place, though. I didn't do it. Of course you didn't.
He says this in a sarcastic tone.
Ifor, I didn't come all the way down here to debate whether you did it or not. I don't need to.
Then why did you come down here? What more do you want from me? What more can you do to me?
And nothing really. Only justice can get me what I want. Your nobility, as fake as it is, grants you a bit of safety down here. Not to mention, if we don't go about this the right way, it could start a war. Punishing you for the trial would cause problems. But you already know that. I just wanted to make sure you're suffering.
Ifor smokes for just a second, while bringing his face back to its original expression. He says something under his breath.
No, I don't think I can say that. What was that? Nothing. Just talking to myself. Okay. Oh, I should mention this before I forget. Your manservant won't be seeing you anymore.
Ifor looks up, his attention being pulled in Adrius' direction as if it were tugged on a rope. What?
Yes, I've forbidden him from coming down to comfort you during your stay here.
Ifor glares at him with a look of confusion. Manservant? Comfort me? What are you talking about?
There's no need to hide it. Everyone knows about your scandalous relationship.
Ifor lets out a little sigh of defeat. That's not surprising.
I can't say I didn't see this coming. Honestly, I understand wanting to make as many friends as possible as a foreign political figure, but don't you think this is taking it a little bit too far?
Adrius whispers this at him in a mocking tone, and Ifor slumps more into the wall. Ha ha. Shut up. At first, Adrius is taken aback by this miniature outburst, but he quickly regains control.
That's no way to talk to a king, is it? Then again, you wouldn't know much about showing respect to kings.
Says the one who constantly disrespected his father at every turn. Adrius shrugs this comment off, knowing it isn't true. He runs his hand along one of the cell bars, staring daggers at Ifor.
You think we're the same, don't you?
What?
You believe that we are similar? Comparable? No. We're very different. The difference between the two of us is simple. I'll dumb it down for you.
Get on with it.
You play chess, right? I assume you do. It's a common strategic game in Erin.
If you're going to make a chess analogy in front of me, it better be good. Who am I kidding? Even if it's bad, I'll still get amusement out of it.
Quiet. As I was saying, the difference between the two of us is you see this as a game. To you, it's all a board of pieces to be moved, altered, and shifted. Pawns to be played, such as our dear friend, Lyre. Lyle's a knight. You know, the horsey piece? And kings to be checked.
Adrius interrupts him to continue his comparison.
For you, the game can be shelved. You and the fools that you get to follow you with tails wagging can walk away from all of this. And even if you lose...
He gestures the cell Ifor is currently sitting in.
It won't matter in the end. It won't be remembered. You won't be remembered.
Ifor stares into his eyes with curiosity.
I never had that option. If I lose, if my piece on the board is checked, then I'll forever be remembered for it. If I fail, nobody will forget it.
Adrius backs away to leave and looks at
I hope you take solace in that.
Adrius turns on his hoof and strides away. Before he can be out of earshot, though, Ifor approaches the door and retorts,
"What if I was never even your opponent?"
Adrius turns back around in the direction of the cell.
"Then the game is truly lost."
With that, he continues down the long tunnel. Once he reaches the beginning, he turns to the guards standing at the entrance.
"There'll be no further visits from Sir Reed. There's an order that needs to be relayed to the rest of the guards stationed down here. Am I clear?"
The guard salutes in response.
Good."
Adrius turns to the guards standing by the stairs. He walks past them, snapping his fingers. The guards follow behind him, their clattering armour echoing throughout the tunnel, until all that's left is silence. Standing by the cell door, I wait here until Adrius is out of earshot. I hear him mumble something about Lyre to one of the guards. He's really doing it. Damn it. I was trying my hardest to keep my cool while he was down here, especially since he caught me while I was in the mind's eye. I reached down, grabbing clumps of straw in my fists, and proceeded to throw them to the side in a fit of rage. Get on my knees and bury my face in my hands, hunching over and grimacing into my palms. Knowing I'd still get to see Lyre while I'm down here was the only thing keeping me going. I'm trying to figure out this mess. Well, throwing a tantrum won't solve anything. Now all I have is this incessant voice in my head. It still sounds like they're talking to me through a wall, but it's getting easier.
It certainly makes me feel better.
I whispered this under my breath. For a time. If it makes you feel any better, I'm sorry this happened to you.
Oh, please, you saw it coming. You know everything that's going to happen.
Oh, not really. It's a bit more complicated than that.
I stand up and walk over to my bed, sitting down on its hard surface.
I wish I could warn you about these things. Really, I do. Guiding my avatars is like taking care of a plant. A very annoying and needy plant. They constantly require things and never give them something wrong. They die.
That's reassuring.
Well, I understand you miss him, but you can't let this sway your resolve.
I know, I won't let it. I just wish I didn't have to be away from him. He's practically the only person I have left to talk to.
Besides you, of course. I'm well aware.
I lay down on my back, staring at the cracked ceiling.
Do you feel as if you've grown dependent on him?
No. It's nothing like that. It's not like I need him or anything. I just... Well, shouldn't you know? You've been watching this whole time, you know how I feel about him.
There's no response at first. Do you love him?
Of course.
No. This isn't an interrogation. I don't doubt you. I'm asking you right here, right now.
Her voice becomes a bit more clear.
Do you love him?
I stare at the ceiling and wait before answering. It can probably read my thoughts or something and know exactly what I'm going to say. It seems impossible. Even irrational from an outside perspective. But yes. I love him.
Good.
Use that.
You can't let these things stop you or get in your way.
I sit up from my resting position. You're right. I can't let this stop me. I just hope that Lyre is doing all right. Do you know if he's okay? There's no response. Damn, you're good.
Please, I've been doing this for countless years. I learned from my mistakes. And if you're going to get out of this, you're going to have to do the same.
But I'm getting better. I've been practicing using the mind's eye scenes of the past for a few days. I'm getting a little better at it, able to see different events here and there. But nothing specific. It's all so far back that it has almost no relevance.
You're not even close. Seeing into the past is one thing, but seeing something that so recently happened, that is a monumental task.
I'll keep working at it.
Good.
I sit down on the floor and close my eyes, getting ready to enter the mind's eye again. Unfortunately, time in the real world does pass if I'm just having visions. Time only stands still outside when I enter the realm of the mind's eye. It's something like a sanctuary. I don't really have anything specific in mind. Right now, I just want to practice. I just need to focus, like Tigran told me to. It takes a moment, but soon I feel as if I'm walking on air. Then the weightless feeling leaves my body, and now I feel as if I'm walking on solid ground. It's soft, though. Grass? Suddenly I feel warmth, and my eyes are open to a completely different place. The body I'm living in right now feels different from Reynar's. It also feels the same. The scenery is definitely familiar, though. There's no mistaking this is the castle gardens. Some of the plans are different from what I personally remember, but everything else for the most part is the same. Feels like a warm summer day. The breeze is strong. Birds take refuge in the trees and chirp to their heart's content. Whoever this is, they seem to be looking around a lot. As if they're searching for something. It's not a frantic search, though. At one point my vision is lowered and I can see the rest of their body. It's a female's body, which throws me off at first, but for some reason it doesn't feel strange. One would think this scenario would be weird, but I don't feel anything strange. It's as if I've lived in this body my whole life. I found that after a while it starts to feel that way. The more times I've done this, the more I start to feel at home. I take my mind off the philosophy of the situation, instead try to wrap my head around who she is. She's wearing an emerald green dress made of light cloth. It reaches the ground in the back, but it's lifted up in the front, allowing me to see her hooves. They're small and dainty, but walk steady and firm. The fur on her body is a light brown. Am I inside the mind of the Queen? Well, it's a possibility. I'm pretty sure this person is a deer. She continues to scan the area, leaning over to look behind bushes. Where are you? She speaks in a soft, chiding manner. It feels strange having this voice feel as if it's coming from my mouth. I don't think I'll get used to that anytime soon. She looks up into a tree and through the leaves I can see someone. It's a young fawn. He's perched in the tree looking down at her with a smiling face. There's no antlers on his head and his cheeks are covered in little spots. His eyes are big and the pupils shine like amber. It's Adrius. He's very young though, about 6 or 7. His clothes are nice and the shirt seems to be a size too big. He lets out a giggle and his tense body relaxes. As if he thought he couldn't be seen if he was absolutely still. It's also most definitely his mother. She crosses her arms and I can feel the smile curling on her lips. I found you. Oh, that's not fair. His voice is high in pitch but soft. Oh, and why is that? He goes to point at her, but quickly brings his arm back to the tree limb he's holding on to. We're peeking. She laughs a sweet and happy laugh while shrugging her shoulders. I was not. I just got lucky. Haha. He says it's an exaggerated attempt at sarcasm. You have to admit, it took me quite a while. She leans against the tree he's in. Yeah, it did take you a long time. I almost starved. He says this in a dramatic way, how a child usually would when exaggerated something. It's honestly surprising seeing him full of so much joy. I assumed he wasn't completely awful, especially as a kid, but it's nice to see him smiling. Those I ever got to see in that was a smirk. Can you hide this time and I seek? She steps away from the tree and nods. Yes, sweetie. You can come down from there now.
He looks down and a sliver of fear gleams in his eyes.
I can't. You got up there this time without my help. Sure you can get down on your own?
He peers over the branch again and shakes his head.
No.
She lets out a sigh and holds out her arms.
Okay, jump down and I'll catch you. From that far away.
He shakes his head once more.
Trust me?
He hesitates for a moment and then does a weak leap from the tree. Not before plucking a wildflower from one of the limbs. He lands in her arms as she catches his weight, swinging him around a little bit before setting him on the ground.
Thanks, Mom.
The small Adrius hops up and down a bit before running over to someone by one of the garden walls. I immediately recognise who's by the wall. Raynar is tending to a small bed of flowers. He's wearing a cotton shirt and a leather apron. It's covered in dirt and water, but he still looks as regal as ever with his crown sitting upon his head. If I could feel my own insides right now, they'd be twisting up into a knot. Seeing him again sends a rush of sorrow through my mind. And I sense Elena's emotions. They're warm and fuzzy.
Arthur, did you see it?
Raynar probably didn't see it, but he turns around and ruffles his head for... Oh, of course I saw it, Fuzzball. You weren't even scared, were you? Adrius looks off to the side in embarrassment.
A little bit.
Raynar looks down at him with a warm smile. Oh, that's okay. The important thing is you did it anyway.
I got you this.
He holds out his little hand and the crumpled wildflower can be seen laying in it. Wow, look at that. It's even my favourite colour. He carefully picks the flower up by the stem and holds it between his fingers. Since it's so important, I'll put it up here. He places the flower between his ear, next to his crown. Elena picks up a dress and starts to walk towards them. Oh, how do I look? Adrius struggles to hold back laughter.
You're silly.
Oh yeah, I probably do. Adrius points at a few flowers and Raynar gets a little bit excited and starts to talk about them. He seems much happier and energetic compared to the calm and collected king I'm used to. Before the queen gets any closer, my vision starts to fade. All of the scenery gets pulled away from my eyes if it's being carried down a river. I'm back in my cell, sitting exactly where I was before. There's commotion down the hall, I can barely make out the voices. You get distracted too easily. Shh, I'm trying to listen. I lean a bit close to the door, trying to hear better. State your business, please.
I'm here to see Lord Ifor.
It's Leif. Hearing his small voice is more welcome than I thought it would be.
I wish to speak to him about something.
Very well. Do you need any help with that? I can hear Leif grunt slightly.
No, thank you. I should be able to manage.
I listen close, I can hear the pitter-patter of his taloned feet echo down the hall as he gets closer and closer. I get up from the floor and go to sit on the end of the bed, by the door. Soon Leif comes into view and I can see that he's carrying an old book. Even to me this book would be large, but for him it's monstrous. It's bound in leather that's practically falling apart. Some of the pages are falling out of the book, crammed in between other pages. He's holding it in his arms and sets it down with a big thump.
Hello.
He's looking down the ground and I can tell he's a bit nervous. Hey, what did you want to talk about?
Oh, I spoke with Lyre a little while ago.
About what?
I'll get to that in a minute. You didn't actually kill the king, right?
You're seriously asking if I would kill your king?
I just wanted to hear it from you, okay?
Okay.
You have to admit, it's not really looking to be in your favour. Lyre managed to convince me, but I still believe you did it. Would you blame me?
He brings up a good point.
We had our chats from time to time, but you had every right to assume I'd done it, given how it happened. No, I wouldn't. Especially given the circumstances and everything that happened. Well, I believe that you weren't the one to do it. There's something wrong with it all. But enough of that. Have you done a lot of research on these headaches you've been getting? Along with that weird dream?
Ah, yes. This should help. Or not. Those books are usually heavily inaccurate and filled with harsh exaggerations. I tried to tune Tigran out as Leif with the book to the page he'd bookmarked. That's good. I still do get headaches from time to time. The constant noise doesn't help.
Oh, really? It's so quiet down here, though.
Not all the time.
Oh, okay. Well, you were saying you had a full recount of the death of our queen, correct?
Yes.
Along with the fact that it was from Reynar's perspective?
Yes, it was from his perspective. Is there anything that says how to stop the headaches?
No, there isn't. But I can stop those here easily with the right medicine. I found something very interesting, though. I searched in the library for hours and I eventually found this book. It's old and dusty. It was crammed between some other books on the highest shelf. At first I almost skipped right over it. I realised this might have some answers. It's a bit religious, though, so bear with me.
Well, let's hear it then.
Okay. You're familiar with the Supreme Being, Tigran?
See? All these silly titles they come up with. Somewhat. Our land was named after them, right?
Yes, well, they're an ancient god that the people of this land used to worship back when religion was one of the pillars of our society. Their influence was so strong for a very long time, but after a while faith was broken. There are only a few people who still worship them today. Any churches we've had are likely crumbling ruins. I fear there's only one that's still intact. You can visit somewhere in Adrius. Christians are very obsessed with preservation.
Leif.
Sorry, I always ramble. My point is, they believe that on very rare occasions, someone would be born the ability of retrocognition.
Yeah? Like, see in the past?
Yes. It was said to be a blessing from Tigran himself. A way to help living beings guide themselves to a brighter future. It says here that those with this ability can see past events in dreams through the perspective of others with proper training. They can even see these events while conscious and can sometimes view said events as an outsider.
He skims over the pages with his gloved wing.
There's not too much information on this, though. There's something about witchcraft and other nonsense. There's something about a mind's eye. If you mentioned that people with this ability have been executed, but nothing is well documented.
That last one isn't connected, I promise.
The ability hasn't shown up in a very long time, though, and seems to be lost in time. Lord Ifor, I believe that those dreams you're having weren't just dreams. It seems you were having visions. You might just be the next avatar for Tigran.
Hearing him say this lifts a weight off my chest, knowing that I might not be crazy. The weight's immediately put back down, though, once I realise what this could mean. I can't trust anyone with this information right now. If word gets out, it could cause serious problems. You want my advice? Play it off. They're right.
Leif, I appreciate your enthusiasm. I've come to the conclusion it was just a dream. Nothing more. Yes, but isn't it a bit strange? You're a man of science. You really believe you have some magical ability to see into the past?
Leif looks at me through his goggles with an impatient gaze.
There's something else this old book mentions. It mentioned the fact that any time they look into their past, their eyes change to a different colour.
He leans in and stares at me with his beady little eyes.
That's odd. Your eyes are green. If I recall, they're always that colour.
Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God indeed. You're welcome for that. I may not be able to do much, but I know what I'm doing. Either that is just pure coincidence they would be green after the last vision.
Maybe you're right. I just thought I'd come down here and entertain you with the idea. Lyre seems skeptical too. Also, here.
He hands me a small glass jar full of what looks like pebbles.
I'm not supposed to give you this, but it's my job to make sure people are healthy. I also trust you. You better not take advantage of that fact.
I take the vial from him. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Take one anytime you get a headache and no more than one. Also, hide them.
He goes and picks up his book. He struggles to lift it up, but eventually straddles it in both arms.
I'll try to visit again soon.
Before he walks off, he turns around.
Oh, one last thing. Lyre says he loves you. He wishes he could be down here with you more than anything.
He turns around and starts walking away. Bye, Leif.
Goodbye, Ifor.
His footsteps trail off into the distance. I'm again left alone in silence. The sun's beginning to set over the mountains, and I feel a chill rush over my body. My clothes are damp and cold, so I have to take off the bulk of them. It's better to wear as little clothing as possible when they're wet like this. Pick up my coat and hang it on the bars of the cell door. After spreading out to dry easier, I sit down on my bed and lean back. Staring at the ceiling, I try to concentrate and gather myself. Soon everything fades into nothing. Then the swirling colours flow into my vision. The ground ripples beneath my feet like a rushing current. Tigran, however, is nowhere to be found. Can you come out? I'd rather talk with you face to face. The large chimera god appears before me in a shimmering flash. The bright green flames dance off their fur and float up into the air. You don't trust the bird?
I don't trust anyone right now.
Not with this, at least. I was going to tell Lyre, but that won't be happening anytime soon. They make a reassuring gesture with their hand. I, for one, believe you are wise not to trust anyone with this. For now, it is best to keep it to yourself.
You think he suspects it anyway?
I know whether he suspects it or not. But for your amusement, I'll pretend I have no outside knowledge. I think he might suspect you're my avatar. They say this like they're walking on eggshells.
So he does.
He does a deep grumbling sigh. Get some rest. You've done enough practice for today.
Was he right about the persecutions and all that?
You have the ability to find out that for yourself. But you'll have to try later. Please try to sleep. You need the energy.
Fine.
Leaving is much easier when I arrived, and before I know it, I'm back in the cell. I lay down onto the bed and spread out, gathering the rest of my body as close to myself as possible to keep warm. Closing my eyes, my exhausted body relaxes, and I drift off into a deep sleep, thinking about all the things I've seen in past memories today. Hopefully they'll be of some use. I just need to practice.
There we go, chapter 8
of Lyre. I hope you enjoyed that. It's interesting having to switch from my first person narration, my normal voice, to something else for third person. So I hope that worked for everyone. It's an interesting thing to do. But yeah, we'll be back with Lyre before too long, and all being well in the week, we'll just be catching up with some burrows and reaching the current end of Mark's route. There's a lot more to go there, but it hasn't been released, so I'll try and get that done. And then the plan is, over the next weekend, record some more Nevin, and we can catch up with Mr. Grumpy Horns and a few other people in that one. So that's a few things to look forward to this April. And as always, before I leave, I want to say thank you to all my donors on Patreon and Ko-fi. You are very, very much appreciated. And a special mention this time to Spiderling,
I was actually just checking some stuff up on Patreon, and I've realised how much you've given to the channel over the past few years. It's a lot, so special thank you, Spiderling. I'm so impressed with your help, as well as I'm impressed with everyone who's bothers to give me money to do this thing. I hope that you're always enjoying what I do. And as always, I'd like to give a quick mention to my top patrons: Burnt Toast, Kartek, Cobras Vista, Legacy Butcherati, Mark Huskerton, Bastion, Ryan Hall, Tiger Cub, Ida Corval, Anubis Silverwind, Dissonance, Grizz, Kopi, Sindri Dragowolf, Marcus, Evan King, Exac, Aaron Fox, Mohammed Al-Zamel, Andy Peng, Samuto, Omar, Big Booty Judy, Over Starburn, and of course Spiderling. And if you'd like to support the channel, all my links are down below, and I have plenty of links for the VNs in descriptions as well. You can go and support the people who actually do more creative stuff and their patrons. So that is it for now from Lyre and from me. So thanks for watching. Until next time, bye for now.